Hi everyone, welcome to round 9 from this marathon tournament. Yes, there are still 2 more rounds after this, and I've been playing for about 10 days. So I was starting to get very tired, but at least I'm on good form. I had a tough game against a strong junior called Roman Mitra, 166 ECF and 1891 FIDE, and also has a rapid of 182. And of course that is a lot higher rated than me, but mind you, it's not hard to be higher rated than me. I kicked off with 1 Nfe3, so this is no interesting choice this. So why did I play 1 Nfe3? I'll explain over the course why I didn't play other moves. I didn't play 1 E4 because it would either be a Sicilian or a French, and I didn't fancy the French because I don't trust this gambit line in long play. And as for Sicilian, 2C3 might get me a draw, but I fancied winning this game. I didn't play, so I had a look what he plays against other openings. It seems that I was going to get a King's Indian. I fancied testing out the that line I did against Phil. But if I play 1 D4, I can't play D3. If I play 1 C4, I couldn't find out whether he plays the reverse Sicilian or not, so it might be C4 E5. So the only option I had was to open with 1 Nfe3, which prevents E5 and also keeps the option of putting the pawn on D3 rather than D4. In addition to this, I also considered playing 1 B3 before the start, but when I'd look in the bulletin, he faced 1 B3 in the previous round, so he will probably know what he's doing, because 1 B3 I use for surprise value rather than actual skill. So Nfe3 was the only choice. Nf6, so far so good. C4. So if he plays kind enough to play G6, I will play G3, Bg2, Nxe4, etc. But nope, he plays C6, which I really did not expect at all. But I thought it's fine. I know my Slav, so I played D4 and transposed it to a D4 opening, D5, Nxe3, and now thought he might play the mainline Slav, at which I can play A4, Bh5, Knight5, etc. Knight Dd7, take this, get this sort of position, and then Fianchetto the bishop. I'll play F3, E4. There's a vast array of plans to choose from. It's a very tough and complex opening, the Slav. Another alternative he has is to play the Cherebenko Slav, which is very trendy. One of the main points is to develop the bishop to F5, and when white plays Queen B3, you play Rook A7 to protect the pawn that way, which is a very aesthetically pleasing way of doing it. Because in this position, if you play this is quite awkward for black. Oops, not that. Because you're attacking B7 and D5 a couple of times, it could be quite awkward to defend. So he played E6, which leads to the sharp semi-Slav. And now I have a few choices. I thought if I play CD5 in this position, if he plays CD5, it's a very dull exchange Slav, and if he plays ED5 as well, he gets a good Queen's Gambit exchange line, because I can't prevent his bishop from coming to a good square, because he's already played C6, so there's none of them Queen B3 tricks you get in the main line. If I play E3, this leads to the Moran, which I really did not fancy facing. Say knight here, something bishop here, take B5, etc. Didn't fancy facing this at all. With a plan of bishop B7 and C5. So I played the most sharpest and most theoretical move, because I figured if he has been playing this for very long, looking at his database, he probably won't know the bottom to move 22, unlike me. Yeah, so I played Bg5, and of course there's a few options now. There is the Moscow variation of H6. White can either take and play E3, where black has the bishop pair but white has more space, and also black has to be careful he doesn't open it up too fast, or white's superior development will prove decisive. Or there is a interesting little gambit with bishop H4, when black can win a pawn by force with G5, bishop G3, and then take this guy, and then when after E4 is played, he played B5. But of course, there is plenty of compensation given the fact that black has weakened himself on both flanks, and White's plan usually involves hitting the G5 with H4 and then knight E5, and also like maybe A4 ideas. The gambit is fairly unclear, to be honest. And of course there was a very sharp Botvinnik line with D takes C4, E4, B5, E5, H6, Bishop H4, G5, and then you take. And it leaves very sharp positions where black's usually a pawn down and he castles queenside and then blasts open the diagonal for his bishop and tries to hack the G2 point off the board, so white will often play G3, Bg2, and it's incredibly theoretical. So it's worth having a look yourself. But he played knight Bd7, which is going to lead to the Cambridge Springs variation, which is what I like, which I absolutely hate facing. It's very trappy. But luckily he didn't play Queen A5, which is the Cambridge Springs. And there's all sorts of traps where if the bishop on G5 is unprotected and there's a bishop on D3, black plays D takes C4, winning the piece, because both bishops are on prees. I think the move you play in this position is knight D2. To stop any knight E4 nasties, potentially. But he played bishop D6. I think maybe it's queen C2, which is the anti-move on, but I actually allowed them wrong with bishop D3. Castles. I now expected D takes C4, bishop takes C4, B5. I was going to play bishop back to B3, you know, I think not sure. D3 is better square, but there's also a plan in this position that maybe bishop C2, queen D3, and then A6. Something like this will happen. Well, actually, in this position I've got knight E4, which might be quite annoying. This actually. So maybe instead of A6, black should play. Or black should. I think 6 bishop D6 might be an inaccuracy. Actually, I think bishop should go to E7. I think we should have something like if we go back. But this is a better line. Bishop E7, and then bishop D3. Take castle. I think this is a better version. And then B5, bishop back, A6. It's like queen E2, bishop B7, rook FD1, and C5. And then DC. This is an interesting position, this. Unclear. But anyway, after these moves, he played A6. And I decided to actually punish him and played C takes D5 as an attempted punishment. Trying to transpose to a Queen's Gambit exchange. Although, in the past when I've played it, I've usually played a different plan. So he took back this way, which opens his bishop up. If he takes back the other way, it is a Slavic exchange transposition, which he probably doesn't want to draw because I'm low rated. And plus I think white's a bit better in this position anyway. So he plays E takes D5. So now I need to work on keeping the C8 bishop bad. So I played Queen C2, which is a typical move in that line, which threatens, it's threatening the cheapo. Bishop takes H7 check, because Rebcast cheapo. Because of course king can't take and our knight can't take because it pins and bishop's protected. Although it seems that it can actually be allowed because Queen C7 is given. Oh yeah, because it unpins, yeah, silly me. Not good, missing out, but he played H6 to stop it, which does create a weakness. Bishop H4, and now he unpinned with Queen C7. And of course I have to watch out for knight G4 stuff, harassing the H2 point even further. And actually I wasn't that satisfied with this position, because in the past I tried it. I didn't want a knight in F3, I wanted an E2 instead. Rook A-B1 I played, and I'd already consumed actually quite a bit of time by this point, even though it's all theory this, which I know because I was trying to just work out like precise move orders, and he was playing really fast. So Rook A-B1, which is I think Keith Arkle plays this move a lot with his simple plan of playing B4 B5. And basically what I want to do is if my strategic plan is if black tries to stop me and block me up after B4 with B5 himself, then I will. If that's in this position, let's say I played fact, let's say black in this position played b5, he didn't, let's say he did. Well, the point now is that the c6 pawn is going to be backward forever, so I can put a rook on the c file, and the queen's there and try and gobble it up. And another point is if black ever plays c5, then d5 becomes very weak and isolated. So either way, I'm going to have a pawn weakness to play against if he plays b5. And otherwise, I play b4 supported by the rook, a4, b5 and create a weakness that way. So my point is now is that either way, I'm probably going to get a structurally winning position in this line. That's pressure. But the game's far from over because black has active pieces, his bishop's open, which is usually blocked in this line, and my kingside can come under attack. And the standard plan in this position is to move the rook to e8, and then move the knight round via f8 to e6 or g6. Well, obviously you can't come to g6 in this position, but it'll come to e6 instead. And then start an attack, kingside attack, with his pieces, and then bishop comes out as well, to like g4, and also make use of the e4 outpost in some lines. White is usually a bit better in these lines, but they're very unclear. But now he played g5, and I was like, what is this? Surely this cannot be good, weakening in front of his king. I move my bishop back, and now he played rook e8, which is quite annoying because I was threatening to play h4, and if he plays g4, my knight comes into e5. But now he stops that, so now h4 is not a very good move. So now I think in this position I should, rather than search for a direct refutation, which I did, I should just take his bishop off, because that's his good bishop, so it's strategically good for me. And then just get on my plan, play b4, and he can't really get an attack that easily. If he plays g4, that's very bad, so I come into f5. And otherwise, how else is he going to continue? You might try knight f8. I play a4. Knight can't come to g6, so it comes to not there. If it comes to e6 and all the squares are controlled, if I can come into e5, then this is just very good for white. But I played a very dodgy move because I was playing on the theory that a attack on the flank is best responded by attacking the centre. But the problem is, after e4, which I played, a lot of pieces come off and I get an isolated pawn, and I also get a double pawn as well, so I'm structurally worse at the end of all of it. And because a lot of pieces come off, my attacking potential to try and take advantage of the gaps in his king position is significantly reduced. But still, it's not actually that bad, it's just a bit dubious, potentially. So take, everything comes off as expected. I did consider at this point actually taking with the bishop, because I thought my knight could be quite strong, but I thought this is actually quite good. But the thing is, he doesn't actually have to take the bishop. You can maybe just play knight round to f8, and I think he's fine. So I took the knight, and he took queen d6. I expected knight f6. Then I played bishop f5. Another piece comes off, and if he takes, it sort of transposes. The problem is, a lot of lines, only one my piece is going to be on the board, so it's very hard to attack. Queen d6. I really overestimate my position. Rook fe1, just to support the bishop in some lines. Knight comes to f6. And now I played bishop h7 check. Which of course he can't take it because his rook hangs, and my point is to take his rook off and then force his knight back. But it's not really that good. I brought the other rook in with tempo. But the problem is now he can develop his bishop and defend the knight and block my e-file with one move. Bishop at e6. So this is very annoying. And now I could think of nothing better than offer a bishop swap, because his bishop's actually quite annoying me a lot. Like if I come back to d3, I just can't find anything after he brings his knight back in game. I've just got left with these bad weaknesses for the endgame, and if queens come off, then I'm practically structurally a bust. So yeah, because I've got 3 pawn angles to his 2. So bishop f5, and now for some reason he declined the bishop swap with bishop d5, but his bishop is pretty good now. He could have played this as well. I was worried about this move, but I think I can get away with this. But he can play knight d6, and after rook e7, just very calm king f8, it's fine. But this is, I think, the move's even stronger. But now I went into my sort of outpost. Well, I thought it was an outpost, knight e5. So the knight is pretty strong here, but he actually missed a good move in this position. He missed queen b4, which is actually very annoying because it forks. I've got 3 pawns hanging after this move and a rook, so it was playing a bit too fast. So that probably didn't help. I think I'm just dropping the pawn for nothing after this move because I've got to do something with my rook. So if I go queen here, so if queen takes d4 seems fine. Yeah, there isn't any compensation, so I think I got a bit lucky then. Knight f6, but it's logical, get the knight back into the game. And of course, if bishop takes a2, I can always trap his bishop with b3, and then he can protect his bishop with his queen, but his queen gets out of the way of the king side, so I'm quite happy with that. I played f4, trying to get a sort of stonewall position. I expected him to take, and then maybe I've undoubled my pawns at least, so I'm not structurally lost in the endgame. It'll just be an isolated pawn, which is probably defendable because I'll have a bit more activity. But he played this really good move, which I completely overlooked, which actually the e7 square is key in a lot of lines. It stops my pieces getting into e7. So very nice move by him actually. I played f takes g5, h takes g5, and I tried to probe his king side with queen d2, but this is actually a very dubious pawn sacrifice, it turns out to be. Of course, if he is actually threatening to play f6 in this position, then I need to do something about the pawn on g3. So maybe queen f2 was better, getting activity without sacking the pawn, but then he can just bring his other rook in. And what have I really got to make up for this? Isolating it on d4. Maybe I've moved my bishop to clear the f file. f6, queen f5, threatening actually a piece sack, but I'm not sure it works. His king goes back here, and I have a few checks. Got bishop g6. I can actually just take this pawn. I'm a piece and a pawn down, and there doesn't seem to be a clear way to attack because rook f1 is always answered by knight f6, and this check is harmless due to king e7. And okay, I get a rook back, but then this drops with check, and then this drops as well. So blackie's got 2 pieces and 2 pawns. I mean, I get another pawn as well. This is very deep stuff, this. But after bishop comes back to e6, I think black is almost winning. Okay, my king's probably going to be more exposed in the end on the h, very naked on the h file. So this line shows that maybe I didn't have that much attack. I played this very dubious pawn sack, which I spend most of my remaining time on. He plays f6. I was like, no, you can't, no, you cannot do that. But now the knight comes into g6. But the problem with this knight is, although it looks optically brilliant, it's actually completely trapped and does absolutely nothing. So he grabs this pawn, which is actually not the best move. He should have brought his rook in. And then I played rook e3 because otherwise there's potential nasty mating threats on g2, like my queen gets tied down. So rook e3, queen moves back, and now I just couldn't think of anything but to switch my rook in to h3, which is very bad. The best try is to move the bishop out of the way, and then black can either grab on a2 with a bit of risk, or play bishop c4, trying to get an attack on my d-pawn. And again, there's no real compensation. But I played rook h3, made it worse for myself, because now what I'd overlooked when calculating this pawn stack was his knight just gets out with tempo on my bishop. And at this point I was getting very close to being on income for several moves. But it's completely lost this position. I also sacking it, we also this to sack it. But the problem is he's got knight takes f5, and after queen h5, he can either play bishop g8. Well, I saw he's got this to survive, but this is even stronger. And I'm just completely lost. That's resigned. I also looked at this sack, but again, it doesn't do anything. It isn't actually a single follow up. So I just retreated the bishop very timidly, and now bishop e6 just seems to win on the spot. But he played bishop f7 instead, which lets him back into the game because I play queen d3, protecting the knight again. And now in this position, he has to find a move. He can still win with Queen B4, but he played Rook D8, which is a blunder. And now here is your test for this video. Analyze the consequences of 32 Rook takes H6. Okay, now we resume. Well, by this point, helped by the fact I was in extreme time pressure, I actually went with my instincts for once and actually did play sacrifice, a sound one as well, because I played Rook takes H6. And after King takes H6, this is where I messed it up. First of all, I've got the move Knight H4, which I thought I had Knight H4 in this position, and I do. I missed I thought you just had this, but I actually missed there's this fork at the end. And actually, all of a sudden, I'm the only one who can win. Okay, gets this pawn, but the extra piece seems to mean more than the 3 pawns in this position. I certainly should not lose this position. So actually, after Knight H4, this actually draws by a perpetual checks. He's got to take it to avoid mate, and then check, 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 check. Also, after the game, my friend Simon looked to see if this could win for white. And it does win if he goes to H5, because Bishop D1 is a very pretty mate. But if he runs to F4, then it's just a perpetual again. So we can't let his king escape to centre or queen side, and this is just a perpetual. But actually, there's a strong move in Knight H4. I hope you'd seen this when he was calculating Rook takes H6. He was strong moves to play Knight E7, which threatens a mating 1 on H7. The only move is then the only move actually is to take and give drop the exchange. Can we play B3? But he's got C5, which is a bit annoying. But even this, white should not lose this. I've got to watch out for 2 connected passed pawns, but if anyone's better than this, it's going to be white. That would be a very interesting endgame to play, but sadly the only endgame I got to play was end of game, because I played Queen H3 for some strange reason, which just completely loses on the spot. Because I've got absolutely nothing in this position. I tried to sack him my knight and move too late, because he just gets gobbled up, and then that's end of checks after Queen H6, King E8. So whereas King's just going to run to D7 and C8, so I resigned in this position with a good reason. So of course, like I said, instead of endgame, we have end of game, because I've just lost. Back to losing ways. What a shame, and probably the end of the Hilton prize as well, unless I win the last 2 somehow. But yeah, I did well then against a very strong, promising player who I think will, if he stops playing ridiculously fast, I think he could easily break 200 pretty soon, and maybe become a GM. Yeah, I have high hopes for him. I thought he played really well, apart from that couple of oversights near the end. I think he played very well in this game, and but it was an enjoyable game, and I was happy to do a few unsound sacrifices. Well, 1 was sound and 2 were completely unsound. Made me feel like Tal, except I looked in the mirror and realised I am not Mikhail Tal. I am Tim Hilton, or T-Unit. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this gaming video, and there's just 2 more games. I think I'll take a break for tonight, but tomorrow I will have a review rounds 10 and 11 to conclude my series on T-Unit at the 2013 British Chess Championships. But for now, please leave any comments and thoughts. Thanks very much.